Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, Mike C-Roc. I'm in the house today. Martha, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce it. Krejci. Okay. And by the way, this show, we don't like aim for perfection here. So we just roll. Anyway, I'm in the house today with Martha Krejci. She's a highly sought after business coach and growth strategist and social media marketing powerhouse who has taken the internet by storm. She even has her own biweekly segment on Tampa's TV news station, WFLA. And that's where she expands on building a multi-million-dollar personal brand from the ground up. She's also been featured in Fox, ABC, and CBS News, Oprah Magazine, Fast Company, Cosmopolitan, Shape, Huffington Post. I'm going to keep going, among other places. A lot of places, man. And she also writes for Entrepreneur in Forbes Magazine and is on the Forbes Business Council. Martha, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so Martha and I, a couple places we've met, but like I've met her on a project that was going on down in Miami that was a hit or miss type thing. But anyway, we had good times. And it was a great experience, but I wanted to bring her on the show to share with all of you because she's obviously done some great things in building a personal brand and teaching others how to do that. And we got to ask her some questions on that. But before we do that, Martha, I want to ask you the question we start the show with every time, which is, what are you made of?
Yeah, I'm made of curiosity. I think the very core of me is just curious. I just get curious about stuff. So even when I try something and I goof it up, or I try and I fail and I try and I fail, which I've done many, many times, instead of getting mad or upset about whatever it was, or getting mad at myself or feeling like, well, you're a failure, right? I may feel like that for a couple of seconds. Let's not lie. But right after that comes the curiosity. Right after that is like why did that happen? And how can I change it? How can I do it again? Change it slightly, and then be able to potentially have it succeed. So it's sort of that just unending curiosity that has just parlayed me into, different situation. And then eventually I think you can't help but succeed if you just keep going with a curiosity, as long as you're, as long as you can keep yourself fed and you can keep, I guess, a roof over your head, although even that's negligible these days, as long as you can keep going, I think eventually you're going to hit.
100% agree with you. And I would say that the more times you keep failing, you fail fast, fail quick, come back, every time you fail, you have data. I talk about this a lot. We collect data. So I use this crazy analogy of a Super Ball bouncing on the ground, right? Uh-huh. And every time that Super Ball hits the ground, that's an attempt that you're trying to do something. And when it bounces back, it's failed. But it grabbed data. It was a sticky Super Ball, and it grabbed dirt, which is data, off the ground. This is the way I think about it in my mind. It might not resonate with everyone. But every time that Super Ball bounces, it keeps grabbing data, and it keeps coming back with new data the next time it hits.
Yeah.
And so you're bound to have more advancement as you go. So no, I love that. And so take us back, right now I understand that you're a business coach, growth strategist, but where did this all start? Did you start in a different type of business and decided to get into this entrepreneurship? Where did it all start?
Yeah. So I used to work for GoDaddy. I was a little over 5 years, and I worked there in leadership. So that's what sort of whet my appetite for the digital world. I really didn't have an understanding of the digital world before then. And I would work directly with consumers there, right? So I would see what was happening. And then I started to get curious, what could that look like for me? Somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing, but this person that I'm helping on tech support doesn't really know what they're doing either. And in realizing that, it really gave me sort of this safeguard against failure, because I'm like, these people are making a lot of money and goofing up left and right, and not in a bad way. They're messing up. I mean, everybody does that. And so I worked for GoDaddy a little over 5 years. The reason that I quit there was because one day I was sitting at my carpeted cubicle. Smelled like the 60s. We're all familiar, I think, with that space. And at least a lot of us are. And I got a video came through of...
Hold on. You weren't alive in the 60s.
No. Okay. So I wasn't alive.
I was going to say, that's bullshit.
You think the 60s smell like.
I called bullshit on that. No.
I imagine the 60s smelled musty.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. That's my picture in my head of that. Thank you that's a good call though. But I got a video, and it was legit my daughter taking her very first steps. And for me, that it destroyed me. It was in that moment I realized that this thing I was striving for may take me up the ladder for this company, and that's fine, but it's going to take me away from my daughter. And so I realized, like, if I keep coming back around to this, I'm going to keep missing different things in her life. And it took us so long to even be able to have her in the first place. Like, we tried very, very hard for years. And then it hit me that day where I'm like, well, I'm going to miss everything. And what's even the point? Why did I even bring her into the world if I'm not going to be here for her, and I'm not showing her how to be any better? I'm showing her to be just like me, which I'm not really a fan of, you know? Yeah. And so it was that day where I decided I was going to quit my job, and I was going to go ahead and start something on my own. And I had and I do still have a weird understanding of SEO, like a cellular. I see algorithm changes before Google announces them. It's just one of those, we all have these weird things, right? And it's just a weird thing that I have. And so I started an agency doing SEO for local businesses. I went to the Chamber of Commerce and did a training for business owners. And they obviously were like, yeah, this is awesome. I would love to do this, but also I don't want to do this. And so then they hired me. I had like the equivalent of a table rush, wow. As much of that as you can have at the Chamber of Commerce, right? With 12 people. But I didn't skip a beat. You know, that very first month I was making the same thing I was making at my old job. And, you know, from there, it's just bobbing and weaving and ending up in a place that you really feel good about in the long run. So
it only took a month to get back to your same income level. And then
not even a month.
So prior to that though, like when you were quitting, did you have like oh shit, okay, what am I going to do here? Like, is this going to work kind of thing? Like where you're going through all that?
I wanted to vomit. Yeah. It was really freaking scary because on paper, it was an absolutely idiotic move. We had just bought a really expensive house. My husband, I had already brought him home from work. He hated his job, which is why he was taking the video of our girl taking her first steps. So he was already home. His parents had moved in with us because his dad had lost his job at, 72, I think is how old he was at that point. You don't go get a new job. And so they moved in with us. I was the breadwinner. I held the insurance, right? And then I said, hey, I'm going to quit my job. And that just looked like a total idiotic move. But what I found in my own life, and then also whenever I read autobiographies, I don't know if you like people's successful people's autobiographies. I love reading that stuff. But what I've seen,
by the way, that's what this show's about. It's just the same concept.
Right.
Yeah, of course I love it.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. Welcome to the show. Sorry. But whenever I read that, what I see is that the people who didn't give themselves a safety net are the people that really succeed. When you give yourself a safety net, you'll use it. And so you'll always you'll be like, oh, well, I can fall back on this. Well, that doesn't create like amazing individuals. Amazing individuals are created when you don't give yourself a safety net. You say, listen, I got to do this. I got to make it happen. There is no other option.
Yeah, 100%. Now I got to go back to something because I think it's funny. Like everybody says that, we've tried real hard to have kids. And I always think this funny thing, I don't know if it's funny for everybody else or not, but like everybody talks about the work that goes into it, but at least that work's fun.
It wasn't terrible work.
Like, you know what I mean? It's not digging ditches. So anyway.
It just took a long time, but yes, not bad work. Could have been worse.
Yeah. Because like, I know, like, look, everybody wants to have kids and all that, but then they make it seem like, oh, we tried so hard. So I always said, that's what goes through my mind. Never said that before, but anyway. So, and then once you started getting going and you had that feeling, oh shoot, I could do this. Then like, how did you expand? Like, how long did you stay in that SEO mode and then decide like, wait a minute, I got to start was there something that clicked that said, I got to create a personal brand now? Like where was that part?
It was when my SEO agency. So I got to the squeeze point pretty fast on that agency. And the squeeze point is when you can't handle the workload, you need to bring in people to help you. And so that happened within the first 3 months. And so whenever that happened, it got a little extra scary because now there's, promise of payroll. And that there was enough to be like, can I make my own bills? And then to add on to that, now somebody else is relying on me. And so it got like heavy stress for me in that space. But whenever I was getting into that point, I got to, it was about a year down the line actually of, having done that, where I was starting to feel like the SEO agency just felt like a different job. It was like my business, but it was all encompassing. And so it took all of my time. I didn't set good boundaries. And so people were just messaging me and emailing me and expecting me to be available to them all the time, which you end up resenting. And it's not their fault that you're resenting them for it. It's not their fault at all. You are the one that didn't set the boundaries, or I was the one that didn't set the boundaries. So I can't be mad about it, but I was. And so after, enough time of that, so it was about a year after I started the agency, is when I was like, I'm helping all these other businesses like crush it on content marketing and SEO, which are hand in hand. And then I was like, I need to do my own personal brand, right? Like I need to teach people how to do this thing. And then I'll just function in that space. And so I started doing it, and then I really, really liked it. And yeah, that's kind of the rest is history.
Yeah. And so like I went through the same thing, like deciding I got to get known, like not just in my local market, not just the Chamber of Commerce, but I gotta get known. And like, how far can I take it? Like, can I take it nationwide? Like, so people all across the United States know who I am, what I do.
Yeah.
Then I was like, well, if I'm going to go that big, I might as well just go global. And I don't even know how I was going to do it. I had no idea, like just exactly what that meant or anything, but I just knew that I got to shoot for something big. And I even said to myself, and this is true, I don't know if I believe in aliens. I think that there's got to be aliens, but there's alien talk in Congress. I'm like, well, then if there's aliens, they need to know who I am. So I started really expanding my thought, if it did nothing else, but expand what I thought I was capable of and what I needed to shoot for. That's what I did. But then you get into situations like, okay, well, let me see what other people are doing. And then you realize that, and I love to hear your thoughts on this. You realize that the game a lot of times starts out pay to play. You're paying for advertising really, but it doesn't appear to other people like it's advertising. It looks like, you've just gotten popularity right away. People want to write articles on you, and you're doing TV shows and magazine covers. Like I remember in my local market, my partner and I twice paid $10,000, which seemed like a lot of money to me back then, to be on this magazine cover of Coastal Life magazine, the Metropolitan magazine. We got on the cover of the magazine. And that's my first taste of like, oh, pay to play. This is how it's done. They don't just want you. It's a money-making thing. And I didn't realize that before, because Martha, I thought like, how am I supposed to keep up with these people that are doing that? I didn't understand the game. Yeah. And in order to get into it, you got to play the game if you're going to compete. So did you go through that as well?
I did go through that a little bit. So one of my whole things is that I don't run Facebook ads and I don't do that, but the pay to play on the media side is absolutely a thing. And then I sunk into HeyRo, and I was utilizing HeyRo a lot, like help a reporter out. So like that's where all the journalists go to get citations. And so I started doing that, and that's free. And it's just, everything costs you time or money, right? Yep. So what I would do is I would write articles, like ask for a response. And so I would write a response, and then I would get picked up. So that's how I got picked up in Oprah magazine. That's how I got picked up in Cosmopolitan. And so like those were crazy things. But yeah, there were people, and some of my students even to this day will ask me, okay, this magazine is saying, I have to pay $500 in order to be in this article and blah, blah, blah. And they say, is this like normal? Is this a good thing? And I say, yes, it's normal. So don't look at that like it's not. It's the cost of marketing. If you choose for that to be your marketing, like the filters, right, is it being shown to your people? Does it actually matter? Is it being shown to your people? Because don't pay money for something if their audience isn't your people, or if they don't actually even have an audience, right? So we see all of these people that'll message you and be like, hey, you can be on the top 30 entrepreneurial women. You probably don't get that one, but like you can be on the top.
I haven't gotten that one yet.
30, right? The top 30 entrepreneurial women for 2022. And so your ego is like, yeah, I would love that. Right. And then you look at who the magazine is and you're like, okay, I haven't really heard of this magazine before. Right. You go research the magazine and you're like, they're not, I don't even know that they have a readership, you know? And so really I equate that sort of thing, and they're not all that way, but I equate that sort of thing. Do you remember in high school, the who's who list?
Yeah.
Where you would pay to be on the who's who list, or you would pay to have the book
College
that had your name that said who's who of whatever. And so that's what I equate it to, is that sort of like you pay for prestige. Now, whenever you're looking at local news, right? Local news stations and stuff like that, sometimes they'll allow you to throw them some money for them to be able to spotlight you, or you work with a PR person. You know all of this, but I'm just saying for anybody that's watching, you work with a PR person and they develop relationships, which essentially they sponsor segments that get you onto those different things. So there's many ways to do it, but yeah, I think I paid for something locally whenever I lived in Iowa. Now I'm like, why did I pay any money?
I know. I live in a small town. A small town here in Maryland. It's the same thing. Like, I think to myself, you know what? Well, there's those magazines that I'm talking about where we pay 10 grand to be on the cover of those magazines. I mean, the other thing about it too, Martha, is not just like the audience for the magazine. That's one aspect of it. But what are you going to do with it yourself? Right.
The leverage.
Yeah. How are you going to leverage it? So how do you you want to speak to that, like leveraging and repurposing? And
oh my gosh, I love leveraging media. So the way that I do it, first of all, I Google myself once a month. That is so silly sounding, but it's true. So I'll Google myself once a month to remind me of the articles that are out there. And then I'll repost. So I'll post something from 4 years ago that was on Huffington Post or something. And then I'll repost it and it still holds value. So like I re-leverage stuff all the time. A lot of times whenever people get media, they'll post it once. And then it's almost like they think, well, everybody's seen it. So I'm not going to post it again. Like, who am I to post that again? But in reality, 10% maybe on
and they forgot about it. And they
right, exactly. Or they didn't care at that point, right? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. They weren't ready for you then, but maybe next year they're ready to see that thing. And so I think a good place to repurpose it, one, is on your website. So again, with the SEO thing, right? So you'll be able to have backlinks to these big publications on your website. So as seen in, so a lot of times, you know, people will have those different things, but then also have a link for them to go to a page where they can look at all these different things that you've been on. But then also repurposing them from, you know, just Googling yourself, bringing up maybe stuff you completely forgot that you did. Because I imagine you're like me, where you do enough like media things where you're like, I don't even remember doing that 3 years ago, but that was a really good article. And so now I'm going to reshare it. So
I mean, not just that, like I produce so much content between my shows, other people's shows that I go on, shooting videos all the time myself, like YouTube, like I just produce so much that, and the reason is that Grant Cardone taught me this, and Jared Glant, shout out to Jared Glant, president of Cardone over there. They wake up every day acting like nobody's ever seen anything they've ever done.
I love that.
And they're doing the you know, they have the exposure that they have, and they still act like that every single day. So I got up every morning. I started thinking like, okay, how can I get known? Every single morning, obsessed. How can I get known? Not for ego, but for to serve the mission. How can I get known? How can I get known? Nobody's ever seen anything. Nobody's seen what we're doing. And so now I'm carrying that over into the tech companies that we're launching. And I'm thinking to myself, nobody's ever seen. I talk about this company Blueprinted like just ridiculously. I
saw you talk about them at 10X.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And it's ridiculous how many times I tell the story, I demo it, like just over the top, right? But nobody's still ever seen it. You know, so that's why you keep thinking that. And that's the key or the secret to building that personal brand, right? It's like always pretending nobody's ever seen anything you've ever done.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because there's whenever people are starting out in their business or in their personal brand, they feel like they're repeating themselves. And you are repeating yourself over and over and over again. But remember, it's not for you. Yep. So it's for the other people to be able to hear that. And also the thing that you repeat about yourself, make sure that it's the narrative you want to go out into the world, because people will repeat what you say about yourself as the truth, right? So the things that you're calling your brand, the mission that you have, make sure that it's super clear, because people will repeat that to their friends whenever it becomes relevant to do so. But if you don't call out your own narrative, they're not going to know what it is. And we cannot imagine that somebody's going to assume something or assume the correct thing.
Yep, 100%. All right. So as we wind down here, Martha, what's the vision for the future for you? Like, what do you have your sights set on? It's got you lit up.
Yeah. We have a membership opening up next month where I'm teaching families how to be able to do affiliate marketing, because that's the first thing that I ever did. And so I'm showing them how to do it without ads and that sort of thing. And I'm just absolutely geeking out, because the soft launch people that are starting it, within the very first day, they're already making money. And so I'm taking all these families that don't want to sell anything, and it's kind of weird for them to sell things, to still be able to make money without selling. So that's the thing. It's my baby right now.
And how can the audience get in touch with you, Martha, engage with you?
Right on. You can just go to withmartha.com. So that's the hub for everything. You'll be able to find social media and all, everything is there. So withmartha.com.
WITH, Martha, right?
Yep.
Withmartha.com. Go check her out, guys. And if you like today's episode or have a comment, feedback, please put it in the chat or the comment section, depending on where you're watching. Review this episode, subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. If you like these, I'm going to keep bringing these back. This is all about you. I can have these calls offline. I don't have to record them. I can have 15-minute Zoom calls all day with people, connect with them. That I get something out of this. This is a relationship builder. However, for you, I record them and bring them to you so that you get benefit. Take something that you got out of this episode today, implement it, and use it to be unstoppable in chasing the life of your dreams. And until next time, be unstoppable.